Welcome. Today we're going to be discussing the technique thundering hammers and some ways to relate it to other techniques in the American Kenpo system. So the thing to keep in mind is these are not comprehensive lists, far from it, and they're really not family groupings. What they are is they're just different avenues that you can take to explore so that you can relate this technique to various other areas of the American Kenpo system through different avenues. Okay, so let's talk through the general idea that everybody uses with this technique to get it out of the way. That would be the mother-father concept. So what is that? So the person throws a punch, we read everything properly, but the important part here is what happens. What happens is my left foot forward and my left arm is blocking, and their right foot forward and their right arm is punching. So this is the same scenario. That's why this is called the mother. Then we have the right hand here, and it could be in any of a couple different positions, and that's the father. So in this case, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be trying to hit this opponent with that right hand from hanging to the side. And we can choose different zones. So in this case, we have the low zone, the middle zone, the upper zone. So how do we choose which zone that we're going to be using? Well, let's take a look at this opponent. Well, guess what? Their hand is high. So that leaves us two zones, the middle zone and the low zone. So that leaves us available to do thundering hammers. Okay, what happens at the other end of the spectrum? So guess what? We have the two zones again, but now we have the upper zone. And again, we can choose to use thundering hammers. Okay, but what happens if the hand is in the middle? Well, it closes off thundering hammers to us, but it leaves us the two other techniques. In this case, dance of death and the sleeper. Okay, so let's get into the whys and wherefores of this. So what did we have to do here? What we had to do basically was change, right? We had to change because we were compelled to change, because what we thought we were going to be hitting was checked off by their left hand. So we had to then change up and go into something else. And that is called a change-up point. So if you notice, we used what-ifs in order to bring in change-up points. And in this case, you can see how they're very closely related to one another. They're different concepts, but used often in hand with one another. So we talked about this being compelled, but let's talk through a different scenario of this also being compelled. So we go in here, we do this block, and we see that it's available to us, and we go, oh, we're going to hit them. And guess what? Rather than it being checked off prior to us seeing it, we thought it was open, and they blocked us instead. So guess what? We're going to have to change up now. We're compelled again to go with that flow and go with the new situation. So let's talk through one of the possibilities that we have for this. We get in here and we're closing that range. Guess what? We can also just reverse that range and get us into something like a flashing mace. But just like we used with this mother-father concept, we can use this now in our new change-up. In this case, we chose high for flashing mace, but did we have to choose high? Well, we have three zones, right? We have the high, middle, and low. Well, what would happen if we took the middle zone? That brings in something like a leaping crane. Or we can continue with what we were doing with one of the other three and go to the low zone now and dance of death. Okay? So that gives us that what if. Okay? So let's move on to a different what if. So thundering hammers relies upon the fact that the person is bending over, right? So what happens if they don't bend? What happens if we hit this person as hard as we think we need to hit them and they don't bend? They're just rock solid. We get in here, we go, bam! Well, guess what? We can go right back into what we just did. We can go right back into that scenario that we were in. It's basically equivalent to them blocking us at that point, right? So we can use the exact same ideas. Okay, so let's take it into the next piece of the scenario. Let's say they bend, but they don't bend enough. Remember, we're talking about bending them all the way over, but what happens if they just bend a little bit? We get into here, we do the thundering hammers, and we're going, I'm not feeling thundering hammers. They're not in the right position. I don't think I can do thundering hammers at this point. Well, guess what? We can take the outside and do something like a leap of death and take them to the floor. Okay? So we've talked through this compelled stuff, but let's talk through the opposite end of that, which is purposeful. We decide to do it. So in this case, we get into here, we get the hit, and they bend all the way over, and guess what? We could continue with thundering hammers at this point, but we don't have to. We have this change-up point that we can use. We can use that zones again to go, hey, you know what? I'm going to use the low zone in this case, and I'm going to do something like a brushing the storm or escape from the storm. So you don't have to continue with the ideal phase. You can, at certain points, choose a change-up point, either because you have to, you're compelled to, or you want to because it's purposeful. So let's go into one more scenario here. This is a common one. We come in here, we did this hit, everything is beautiful, but they grab our hand. We're like, uh-oh, we're stuck. Well, we have a choice. We either A, try to get our hand out, or B, go with it. So let's take the first option here of trying to get our hand out. Well, we have this left hand free here, so we can allow it in our aid and pull a hand out, and we could A, continue with thundering hammers again, or B, we can go into something like a shield mix. So let's talk through the second scenario. We get into here, he does a grab, and we feel, this guy's just a little too strong for me. I don't think I'm going to be able to get out. So guess what? Thundering hammer has built into it the answer to this question. Up to now, in the normal way we're doing thundering hammers, we use our left and our right legs, but we use them in a defensive manner to check this opponent off. But we don't have to. We can use them in an offensive manner. So in this case, we use his left and that right in order to attack that leg so that we can then either free up our hand to continue or end it at that point. Okay, so let's do a quick recap. So what did we do? We did some relations to other techniques through the what if and through change-up points and through a bunch of different scenarios thereof. And then we started out with mother-father concept. Hope this video helped you understand the American Kenpo system just a little bit better. Thank you very much.